Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents Barbecue and Brooms by Bella Falls, narrated by Johanna Parker. Chapter 1. Drinking sweet tea, bugging my brother Matt, baking the tastiest chess pie, gobbling up all the good food Nana makes, like this morning's buttermilk biscuits with fried country ham and grape jelly. Finding things for people. My brain shuffled through all the stuff I excelled at on a regular basis. So why couldn't flying on a broomstick be on that list? I squeezed my thighs around the skinny length of wood, trying my hardest not to fall out of the sky. Mason had patiently given me multiple lessons over the past 2 months, but for the life of me, I still couldn't get the hang of it. Today's was all about increasing my speed to a respectable rate, but zooming faster somehow made the rest of my lessons leak out my ears. When I copied Mason's movements, I could almost believe that I might master being on a broom. But when he switched places, putting me in the lead, I figured the only place a broom should exist was in my hands, sweeping dust. You need to direct yourself right or left, up or down. Flying in a straight line is only going to work for so long, Mason called out while soaring slightly behind me to my left. I'd bet a pound of unicorn manure he wasn't sweating at all. I let go of the wooden handle long enough to wipe a drop off my brow. I got this, I gritted through my teeth at the man. I got nothing, I admitted to myself. The far edge of Tipper's land, which now belonged to my brother, loomed ahead. Right, left, up. All good choices my body couldn't figure out how to execute in order not to crash into the trees. Just lean a little to your left, instructed Mason. No, not your right, your left. He motioned the correct direction with a jerk of his head. Somewhere inside of me existed the knowledge of how to maneuver my exasperating flying contraption, but the fear of knocking myself out shadowed any ability to recollect how. I can't, I exclaimed, holding my arm up to shield my face from the imminent impact into the protruding forest. Charli! Mason zipped to my side and nudged me off course. I dropped underneath the incoming branch at the last second. Instead of the hard impact of wood knocking me out, tendrils of Spanish moss tickled my forehead. In a panic, I aimed my body toward the ground and forgot to slow down for the descent. The second my heels touched earth, I tumbled over the front of the handle and somersaulted a couple of times until I lay splayed out on my back, staring up into the afternoon sky. It wasn't the first time I'd fallen off my broom, and I doubted it would be the last. When my senses and brain caught up to my body, I remembered why I needed to land. "Mason?" I cried out. "You okay?" Like a pro, the detective landed next to me without so much as a mark in the dirt. "I'm more worried about your noggin," he joked, holding out a hand to help me up. Accepting his offer, I allowed him to hoist me onto my feet. My eyes lit on a few scratches on his face, and I touched the pink lines with my fingertips. He reached up and held my hand against his cheek, leaning into my touch. His eyes went soft with a familiar warmth. Biddy's dark form fluttered down next to us, and she squawked a few times. No, it sounded more like cackling with bird amusement. Her interruption dashed cold water on the moment between the detective and me. "No more leftover biscuits on the porch for you, Missy," I taunted the bird, slipping my hand out from under Mason's. I jutted my bottom lip out to pout. "I'm never gonna get the hang of this dang blasted thing." For good measure, I kicked the bristles of the broom. Mason chuckled and sighed. "Well, I don't think we'll be signing you up for the amateur race this weekend, that's for sure. But you are getting faster. That's something." I shot Biddy a sideways glance for her sarcastic cause. "Faster, maybe, but my goal is still at the level of a toddler's." Mason shook his head. "That's not true. I think Big Willie's youngest can outfly you." Life was not fair if the little hairy Sasquatch could soar through the air better than me, an experienced witch. "That's because he's using one of Lee's special spell-casted brooms." I defended my poor abilities. Mason threw his arm around my shoulder. Or maybe flying can be more of a hobby for you, much like knitting or painting. At least that way it will be safer." "But I don't do either of those." I frowned in confusion. The detective's eyes sparkled with too much glee. "Exactly." His comment earned him a quick punch and a shove away from me. The genuine smile on my lips reminded me how much I enjoyed my time with Mason when there wasn't so much pressure on defining who we were to each other. He never pushed too hard, and for that I was grateful. But I knew time was running out for my avoidance of emotional definitions, whatever they might be. "You are signed up to race, though, aren't you?" I asked. Mason lifted his eyebrow with rare cockiness. "At least one. It'll be fun to stretch my proverbial wings again. I've forgotten how much fun it is to compete. Plus, there may be a few dollars on the line as well." I gasped and covered my mouth in fake shock, putting on my best Scarlett O'Hara imitation. "Why, detective, you're betting on yourself?" "Who better to place my faith in?" He shrugged his shoulders. "Now, why don't you let me show you a little of what it'll be like when I take control of the stick?" We'd flown together a few times, tethering our magic and connecting on a very intimate level. Usually after one of those occasions, we came mighty close to taking the intimacy between us to a new level. My cheeks heated under his gaze. "I don't know if we have time for a long shared ride before tonight's town hall meeting," I countered, taking no pleasure in the lie. We had time for a short tandem flight, but I wasn't prepared right now to deal with what came after. Sometimes I craved the exhilaration of hurtling through the air with his body pressed against my back and his arms wrapped around me to hold on, but I didn't know what to do after our feet touched solid ground again. A slight wrinkle appeared in between the detective's eyebrows, and I knew my lack of enthusiasm frustrated him. Unable to help myself, I reached up with my finger and tried to smooth the crease out. "I'm sorry, Mason," I whispered. He relaxed a little. "I told you I wouldn't push things between us, and I meant it. Being your friend is important to me." Before I could reply, Mason placed a finger over my lips. "You don't have to say anything. Even though I move fast on a broom, slow and steady is my normal pace. As long as the door is still open, I'm good." Doubt seeped into my heart, and I did my best to ignore it and change the subject. "I wish I could experience what you do when you race." Mason's eyes brightened. "You can, if you're willing to trust me. We've already shared magic before, so it shouldn't be that hard." "What are you talking about?" He took a step closer to me. "You can borrow a piece of my magic for a short amount of time. Use it to fly at least one lap around this field. I know we've got time for this." Fear and excitement mixed in my stomach. Isn't that dangerous? With my new job not keeping me as busy as I'd like, and a lack of murders to investigate, I kind of missed the adrenaline rush. But using big magic always came with a price, and Nana had instilled in me a goodly amount of caution. Still, frosted fairy wings, I couldn't let the sheriff's hairy offspring best me. Besides, when one has the opportunity to capture a unicorn, even for a brief moment, one shouldn't turn it down, right? Mason thrust the handle of his broom into my hands. "Trust me." With a nod and a willful ignoring of a Nana-type voice blaring a warning in my head, I agreed. "I do. Now, how do we do this?" He stood in front of me and took both my hands, his thumbs stroking my skin. "This might feel a bit weird at first, and you won't have much time. Try to keep to the edge of the field, and don't go beyond the border of the field." "But what if I lose control, and the trees threaten to smack my witchy behind back down to earth? For goodness sakes, I still had grass stains and bruises on my rump." Mason shook his head. "I won't let you get hurt. If something happens, I should be able to steer you out of the way." My eyebrows raised in alarm. "You mean this would give you control over me?" The detective pondered my slightly freaked out inquiry. "Yes and no. That's why you have to trust me not to take advantage. I'll let you use my skills, but won't overpower you. You up for it?" Nana's powerful voice echoed too loud for me to ignore in the back of my mind. "Birdie, don't you dare do it!" But my curiosity and immediate desires drowned out her sensible advice. "I'm ready." The corners of his lips curved up in gleeful satisfaction. "Right. I'm going to take a page out of your spell book, so to speak. Here we go." He closed his eyes and squeezed my hands. I took the unguarded opportunity to gawk at him, marveling at his intense sincerity in wanting to share so much with me. My fingers itched to scratch the slight stubble he allowed to grow out because he knew how much I liked the bad boy vibe it gave him. Too caught up in my scrutiny of the man in front of me, I almost forgot to throw up a wall of protection. Without one, I risked his magic short-circuiting me. Closing my eyes, I focused on keeping us both safe. Mason spoke with a clear tone. "In this time and in this hour, let us share our magic power. Into her body my powers pour, and let her take the broom to soar. This special skill I give for free. As I will it, so mote it be." The traditional end of his spell surprised me, and my eyes flew open, only to find him smirking at me. The cheeky detective winked and finished his spell in a little more my style. "With my magic, let Charli fly, and give her confidence that she won't die." Power tingled in my hands and jolted up my arms. I drew in a breath and closed my eyes again, trying hard not to pass out from the sudden sensation. After a few moments of concentration, I let my guard down and relaxed. The foreign yet familiar magic settled down and flowed inside my body until it filled me to the brim. With relief that I didn't faint, I blinked my eyes open to find Mason staring with concern. Determined for him to stop seeing me as weak, I licked my lips and snickered. Kind of tastes like chocolate." The tension from Mason's shoulders dropped. "Good, but you better take advantage fast. I'm not sure how long the spell will hold," he reminded, tapping the wooden handle. Following the instructions he'd given me since day one with a broom, I kicked off the ground with more grace than I'd ever known. Leaning forward, I willed the flying instrument to go, and it bounded off like a rocket. Instead of normal fear coursing through my veins, adrenaline pumped excitement through, fueling pure joy inside me. No longer struggling to control the simplest maneuver, I loosened my grip and allowed myself to enjoy the ride. Testing my limits, I leaned forward and pushed faster. Biddy dropped out of the sky and joined me on my left flank, her wings spread wide enough for her dark feathers to almost brush my arm. The first time I flew together with Mason, we'd allowed her to guide us. I sent a silent wish, hoping she'd rise to the challenge. With a slight cock of her head, the crow banked a hard left, and I dove with ease right behind her. A loud whoop escaped my throat as I zigged and zagged right behind her feathery figure. She tested my ability to keep up with a few dips and climbs that would have stumped me before, but with the borrowed magic I tapped into, it felt like child's play. "What else you got?" I dared with a grin. Sensing my newfound skills, Biddy let out a defiant caw and led me closer to the woods at the far border of the property. I dodged outreaching branches with ease, no longer acting out of fear at the threat of one of them knocking me out. Effervescent giggles bubbled up and burst out of my mouth at the thrill of the ride. If someone could fly like this, why would they ever want to walk on the ground again? Without thinking, I performed a barrel roll in the air, much to Biddy's and my own shock. Maybe I could talk Mason into doing this again and letting me enter one of the races after all. Wouldn't it knock the socks off of all of my friends and shut down my brother's teasing for good? My vision blurred, and my ability to see Biddy faltered. The broom lost a little altitude, and I shook my head to try and clear it. The taste of sweet chocolate in my mouth turned bitter by the second, and my confidence evaporated into concern. Instead of coasting through the air with ease, it took a considerable effort for me to turn in Mason's direction and head back. I needed his assurance that everything was okay, but seeing him doubled over and breathing hard freaked me out. Another wave of unsteadiness hit me, and the broom shook underneath my thighs. I struggled to shake it off, but an overwhelming exhaustion weighed on top of me, and my eyelids drooped.
"Charlie, stay with me,"
called out Mason. A little more power zinged through me, and I gripped the handle tighter. My shaky descent slowed with considerable effort on my part as I struggled to stay upright. My legs and feet dropped down in preparation for the landing, even though I hadn't intended for that to happen.
"I've got you,"
reassured Mason, his outstretched hands glowing with power as he assisted me. The second I hit the ground, my body crumpled against his. "What's happening?" I struggled to catch my breath. The detective pulled me into a sweaty embrace.
"I guess we pushed it a little too far,"
he managed.
"Maybe next time we need to put a time limit on things, or eat a full meal first."
Even a fool like me understood there shouldn't be a next time if it affected both of us this way. If I had pushed any harder or been further away, the whole experience could have put us both in serious jeopardy. Mason plucked a strand of hair stuck to my face and curled it behind my ear with a gentle touch.
"I can't wait for the others to hear about your incredible flying talents."
Yeah, I could shut them all up with the shock and awe of it all. I smiled at first, but the realization of them not believing me and then asking more questions erased my amusement. "Wait, you're not going to tell, are you?" My friends finding out that Mason and I had a habit of sharing magic the way we did didn't stress me out as much as what Nana would do if she heard.
"Why not? You were really good up there."
He nudged me with his hip.
"Your grandmother would be proud."
I freaked out at the mere possibility. "Holy unicorn horn, you're not thinking of letting my grandmother know what we just did?" He winced at the volume of my panic.
"What, fly together? I think she knows about that."
"No, about how you helped me do it on my own." I raised my eyebrows, willing him to get my gist.
"Oh, that."
Mason tapped his chin in mock thoughtfulness.
"And what will you offer to keep my mouth shut?"
My jaw dropped. "Are you kidding?" The detective broke into chuckles.
"You should see your face right now. Charlie, your grandmother will have many other things to worry about than you this weekend."
"Doubt that," I muttered under my breath. Nana always had time to worry about me. A thought dawned on me, and I snapped my fingers. "How about you promise you won't say a word, and I will share some of Nana's homemade chicken and dumplings, a goodly amount of creamy mac and cheese, and a heaping of collards." Mason took his time in answering me, amusement dancing in his eyes as he watched me squirm. Finally, he put me out of my misery with a slight nod.
"I can do that."
I squinted at him. "So, I feed you, and we keep what happened just between us."
"That's the agreement. Besides, I kind of like having something that's just between you and me. Maybe I need to cast a spell on you more often."
He took a step closer. I stuck out my hand, stopping his progress and squaring things properly. "Let's shake on it. Deal?" Mason took my hand in his.
"Deal."
Without any more hesitation, he pulled me into his body and planted his warm lips on mine. Chapter 2. My head floated in the clouds from the second Mason's lips had left mine. Although the intimate contact had only lasted for a brief moment, with no follow-up or further acknowledgement, the kiss had me so catawampus I wouldn't be able to decide whether to scratch my watch or whine my behind if my life depended on it. I didn't know how affected I was until I found myself on Main Street, standing on the sidewalk outside of my office. Coming out of my fog of elation and confusion, I quickly checked to make sure I hadn't made the trip to town naked as the day is long, as Uncle Tipper had been a few times he'd tippled a bit too much moonshine. Relieved to find myself fully clothed, I let myself relax and marvel at the window to my business. The sunflowers that framed my etched logo reflected golden in the amber rays of the late afternoon sun. A warm shiver prickled over my skin, and for a second I could swear that my parents were here with me, one on each side. I wondered what they would think of Mason and his sudden boldness. Someone called out my name, and with regret, I stopped searching the glass for the reflections of my dearly departed parents. Voices echoed off the buildings on Main Street and broke through my fog as most of the citizens of Honeysuckle Hollow headed to the town hall for tonight's very important meeting. A loud whistle shattered the last of my nostalgia, and I turned on my heels just in time to say hey to a few familiar faces walking by and to acknowledge Henry with a wave. My self-proclaimed assistant pushed his way through a group sauntering down the middle of the street.
"Y'all know they made sidewalks for a reason. Move out of the way, old man coming through,"
he grumbled, holding up 2 cups with straws to keep them from being knocked out of his hands. When he made it across, he handed me one of them.
"Here, a little fuel to help you celebrate another successful day at the office, boss."
"I told you not to call me that," I insisted, accepting the sweet tea with gratitude. "And I say it again, you should really consider doing something more valuable with your time than pretending to be secretary to a business that has no clients."
"Nuts to that," scoffed Henry. "What else do I have to do with my time? Besides, I have one word for you. Gremlins."
I chuckled at the joke at first, but a sliver of fear rippled through me at the realization he might be serious based on the mischievous glint in his eyes. "I will not be drumming up any business using nefarious methods, Henry. Gremlins are nasty little creatures. Haven't you seen the movies? Things can get out of control very fast. I don't think either one of us wants to explain to my grandmother why or how we started an infestation of those troublesome critters in Honeysuckle." Henry shrugged.
"It was just a suggestion. Anyway, I gotta go meet up with the fellas before the meeting to make sure everything's in order for our entry."
He gave me a brief, genuine smile with a wink before replacing his traditional smirk on his face so no one else would know how sweet he could really be. He hadn't declared which team he was on for this weekend's barbecue contest, but I thanked my lucky stars Henry remained on my personal team, even if he wanted to stoop so low as to suggest the use of gremlins so people would seek out my services. Taking a much-needed long sip of the gifted drink, I followed the crowd and greeted everyone with politeness and a quick nod with a smile, relishing the quiet normalcy of our special small town. Maybe peace and quiet ranked higher than constant drama, and if all it took was a simple kiss to raise my adrenaline, then I would choose to do that over and over again. My fingertips brushed my bottom lip at the memory, and I forgot to watch which way my feet took me. With my usual lack of grace, I bumped into a tall figure, barely managing not to spill my drink on him. "Oops, I am so sorry." Rafe, the vampire who had been one of the reasons my best friend and I were almost killed, looked down his nose at me.
"It is quite all right, Miss Charlotte. I fear you would be the one hurt more than me."
His tone held none of the old haughtiness I expected. Instead, the vampire sounded tired and a little defeated, maybe even a touch bit humble, which creeped me out. A bunch of conflicting emotions fought inside me. On one hand, his actions with the town council election brought in one of the most dangerous villains I'd ever met. On the other, he too had been a victim, since he'd been blackmailed into some bad decisions. Rafe had returned to Honeysuckle a little while ago, and in a way, I admired his bravery to come back and face the consequences of his own actions in order to live in a place he liked. How long did he need to pay penance to be forgiven? Deciding to give him another shot, I allowed a genuine smile to spread on my face. "Are you participating in the barbecue event this weekend?" Rafe's stoic expression relaxed a tiny fraction, and he answered me with a faint grin of his own.
"I am indeed. A group of us vampires have joined forces and will be entering together."
My eyebrows lifted so high, my eyes hurt from not blinking. "Which team?" Rafe's lips curled into a deeper smile, revealing his fangs.
"There are a few of us who have pooled our resources to purchase the finest and the highest-rated smoker available. In addition, we managed to procure one of the most lauded barbecue masters this side of the Mississippi."
The crafty vampire licked his lips in anticipation of my next question. Who? He leaned in closer and put a hand up to his mouth.
Sam Aiden,
he whispered. I gasped. Sam Aiden? Of the Skybird Inn over yonder in Jonesville? How in the world did you score him? Everyone in the supernatural and human world knew Sam's name and his barbecue joint's reputation. People traveled from all over just to get one of his plates with heaping scoops of chopped pork smothered in sauce, collards, and a crumbly square of cornbread on top. The tall vampire relished my shocked reaction.
We share more in common now, and I convinced him that our small event here in Honeysuckle would be worth it.
The proud glint in Rafe's eyes reminded me a little of his old self. However, I couldn't begrudge the vampire his smugness when he brought in a major player for the contest, especially since he saw it as good for our little town. I patted him on his cold arm. Good for you. I hope your team has fun. I started to walk away, but turned around when a question dawned on me. Out of curiosity, what is it you have in common? Rafe brought a finger to his lips and opened his mouth, tapping one of his pointed fangs.
He's one of us now. His recipes that have been handed down for generations will last for an eternity. But don't let me interrupt you. I am sure you are meeting some of your friends. Please give them my regards, especially young Blythe.
He nodded in dismissal. I stood on the steps to the entrance, a little dumbfounded from the complete change in him. Sure, he was attempting to make up for his past transgressions, but to want me to pass on any type of salutations to my friends stunned me. A big part of me that had anticipated a verbal sparring with him remained skeptical. But this was Honeysuckle Hollow, and strange things happened every day. Perhaps I would pass on his greetings to help his campaign of change, but probably would skip saying anything to my best friend. Even with the vampire, Lady Eveline, counted as one of her closest companions, I didn't think Blythe would ever truly forgive Rafe in the long run. Hey, girl, called out Lily. Why are you standing out here with your mouth open like you're trying to catch flies? Shouldn't we go inside? Her cousin followed right behind, with too much mischief sparkling in her eyes. Lavender pointed above my head. Why is your aura so bright and twinkly with pink and red? My friend's psychic ability to read moods and figure out hidden truths panicked me, and I shut my mouth tight, although she could probably detect that something in the heart department had gone down recently. I needed to keep Mason's kiss secret, at least for now. I don't know what you're talking about. Come on, let's go find Alice and Kate. Lily tugged on my arm and narrowed her eyes. That's fine, but since we're all staying at your place this weekend, you know you're going to have to spill your guts at some point. She raised an eyebrow and beckoned her cousin to follow her inside. Lavender giggled. I bet whatever she has to tell us is juicy, and it probably involves a certain somebody who she's been hanging out with lately, too. My grandmother? I asked, following behind them. Lavender turned so I could watch her roll her eyes. Nope. Matt? TJ? Charlie Jr.? I proposed. She shook her head. Your niece is still cooking in your sister-in-law's belly. And while I know you love your family, that flavor of emotion shows up more as a purple hue. This has a more romantic tint. She tittered behind her hand, and a few heads turned in our direction. We made our way to the row of seats next to Alice and Kate, who beckoned us to hurry up. I grabbed Lavender's hand before she joined her cousin. Listen, Lav, I'm not ready to think about my future with a detective, to make it real by telling others, to do anything else other than enjoy things in the moment. She squeezed me and let me go. I know, Lily likes to stir up trouble, but I'm just so pleased to see your life going in the direction that it is. That's all. You'll tell us when you're ready. She shuffled down the row of seats. Before I joined my friends, a warm hand touched my arm. My cousin Clementine greeted me with a light hug and a friendly smile. Hey, Clem, you nervous for tonight? I asked. She nodded, her eyes widening a bit. I've done my best to encourage Tucker, and I know he'll...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?